Svitlana Romanko is the founder and the executive director of Razom. We Stand. It's a Ukrainian organization campaigning to end trade in Russian oil and gas as a precursor to end the war in Ukraine. She joins us live from Munich. So good to have you with us as we are covering and hearing there. The fundamental position of the US is, it seems, according even to what Zelensky is saying, is to put pressure on Ukraine to make the compromises. Do you think the calls and the push to try and pressure Russia through sanctions on oil and gas, is that really working?
Yes, it is working. And just starting from that, whether in Ukraine or Western Europe or in the US or elsewhere, we all want to live in peace and security. But actually, the war is raging on for the 4 years already. And the only possible way to end this war is economic pressure on Russia and sanctioning Russia's oil and gas. But Russian shadow fleet tankers are still circumventing European sanctions and sailing the world oceans to fill Russia's war chest. And Europe still buys Russian gas, and even newly adopted repowered
So on that point, sorry, Svitlana, I mean, you've just pointed it out there. If the if the Europeans are still buying Russian energy, if the Russian shadow fleet tankers are still working, and we're hearing at the same time of pressure from Donald Trump on Ukraine, how can you say at the same time, well, they're working?
Yes, they are working because they deprived Russia of €500 billion of profit for overall years of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, but still Russia is able to get the money and to fill in the budget. So, and the latest U.S. claims, including to make peace anyway, anyhow, but Ukrainians only want fair and just peace, which will evolve our territorial integrity and preserve sovereignty of our country. And also U.S. claim to Greenland. They all are the latest signs of the same kind, that we need to radically rethink our approach to geopolitical threats. And Europe must think of that at the first place, because the plans they made for abandoning Russian gas is still alive and well, but they will continue buying Russian gas for 1 more year and pipeline Russian gas for a year and a half. This is terrible. Why Ukrainians are being targeted this year as no one other civilians and no one other nations, because 95% of Russian attacks are only target civilians and kill children and mothers and parents and elders. And actually, when all the expensive fossil fuel energy systems fail, as we can see it now, they fail to protect us, they fail to defend the nations and impose security as in a proper scale. So then politicians feel forced, as we can see, and even during this Munich Security Conference, they are forced to make deals with the devil. And we must, first of all, fortify and modernize our energy infrastructure, grids and storages to build really secure, cheaper and resilient energy that will be hard to destroy. This must come at the first.
Svitlana, it's been 4 years, as you pointed out, into this war. What option does Europe have that it hasn't done in order to develop a more independent energy network, which I think is what you're advocating?
Well, the main Europe's problem is graduity. They always promise we gradually reduce dependence on Russian gas, on Russian oil, and they indeed do it very slowly, politically weakening even our best position in the negotiations, unfortunately. So, and oil and gas are still Europe's weak spot, and Russia is working hard to keep this weak spot open forever, and including here in Germany, where we are at the moment, and organizations influenced by Russia cast doubt on the effectiveness and reliability of clean energy, which made 54% of energy mix of Europe in 2025, which is not bad at all. And investments overall doubled into the renewable energy, but of course more capital should have become available for building truly renewable energy independence, and Europe is not, unfortunately, moving fast here. So that still imports Russian gas. This has to end, and also the enforcement of the existing sanctions must begin even now, because as we've seen, U.S. Started stopping oil tankers of Russian oil shadow fleets. They seize them, they sell the oil into the market, and they nationalize this money. Europe should do so after they hopefully impose the maritime shipment ban, along with the UK, whom we are also talking on the political levels to enable this decision.
Svitlana, you mentioned there the sort of green transition option and how much green energy makes up from the European basket of energy. In order to make a bigger transition, though, that we really are talking about revamping, changing a lot of infrastructure, electricity grids, storage capacity, generation capacity, right? Do you see Europe making that sort of infrastructural move that would allow the sort of change you're advocating?
Absolutely. And Europe has 5 main electrification legislation acts on the table, and they are going to adopt them in the course of 2026, which will mean that they will make the procedure less bureaucratic and fasten the transition to renewable energy. But still, as we have to bear in mind that electrification and clean energy, clean electricity is fully available and affordable within the European budget even now. And one thought to remember, the more Europe invests in renewable energy installment right now, the less they will have to invest into security and defense.
All right, thank you very much. Svitlana Romanko, founder and executive director of Razom, We Stand.